Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Ferdi. Özsoy. Welcome to the second day of the Global Fact 8. Today, we'll be talking about a number of important topics that affect fact checkers all around the world. Let's begin with a big issue on our minds that many fact checkers have: harassment. This was a topic that was spoken with Bivar Sinclair yesterday, how it affects our mental state and how it affects our work. Today, we have four colleagues of mine from the community: Maarten Schenk, co founder of These Stories; Thanos, senior editor, co founder of Hoaxes; Inga Springe, co founder investigative journals, Baltica and Recheck; and Robert Whitaker, news editor, AP, Associated Press. Um, Thank you for being here today with us, guys. This is a very important issue that a lot of fact checkers have on their mind. Um, Today we're gonna hear from them about some of the ways that how they deter some of the harassment that happens against them, some case studies within their own organizations, as well as a broader look on how harassment is online. So we're going to start with Maarten first. Maarten, uh, the floor is yours. But before the floor is yours, I want to tell a bit about put a sentence in there. These stories had to find a balance between having a clear contact information on their website and the reporters were constantly getting harassed. So Martin's going to walk us through of how they uh, deterred harassment against their reporters on their website. Maarten, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not so much deter as we found some technical ways to manage it better. So I prepared a few slides, a little presentation. So as some of you may know, my background is in web development. So normally websites are designed with certain patterns in mind, so they look good. And are easy to use, but there are also some things called anti-patterns that deliberately make it harder to use. And so we deployed a few of these anti-patterns to deter the hate mail that we were sometimes getting and that our reporters were sometimes getting. So if we could start the slides, then we can get started. That's not my presentation. I'm sure it's very interesting, but so yeah, I'll go ahead and start with the introduction. So our main problem was that the IFCN Code of Principles, of course, requires that we have clear contact information on our website so that our readers can contact us with legitimate questions and thoughts and tips and ideas. And also the Facebook fact-checking partnership requires that we have an appeals email address available so that publishers can contact us if they want to appeal a rating or if they want to issue a correction notice so we can lift the strike. But of course, having such email addresses or contacts information openly available on our website also attracts unwanted attention from trolls and harassers. There are nice. So yeah, so that's the problem in short. We need to have all this contact information on our site, and it acts as a magnet for some unwanted attention. Yes, slide please. So back in the day when Lead Stories was just a small website with just 2 people, we even had comment forms under our articles, and we had our email addresses listed in our biographies under each article. We didn't have much problems with harassment back then because we didn't have many readers, but yeah, that started to increase as soon as we got a little bigger and we joined the Facebook partnership. So our reporters were getting angry emails and death threats and that sort of stuff. So we took a few measures like removing the email forms because 99% of the comments are just people violently disagreeing with whatever you're saying and calling you names. So we dropped that. We removed email address from people's bios, and we added a generic reporters@leadstories.com contact email on our contact page. So, and that will be read by the editor-in-chief, who then forwarded the messages that weren't harassing to the correct people. So that stopped harassment to our reporters. So our staff appreciated that. And as you can see, our contact page evolved over the years. So when we just launched and before we were a fact-checking site, it was very, very simple. Then a bit later, yes, click please. Yeah, we added more information to comply with the IFCN Code of Principles. That's when we became a fact-checking site. Then a bit later, when we joined the Facebook program, click please. You can see we added also information for doing appeals. But yeah, that meant that people were spamming our appeals addresses and our editorial addresses with angry messages. So in 2000, next slide please, we completely redesigned our page, and we added a big notice at the top saying abusive or threatening emails will be ignored, reported to the authorities, or published on Twitter for entertainment. Don't waste your time on that. And then we added an email address, the first email address on the page, hatemail@leadstories.com, which is basically a decoy email address. We call it the lightning rod. And the actual contact information was further on down the page, because we figured angry people that just want to troll us, they don't have the time to read a lot of things. They don't want to scroll down. They will just click on the first email address they see. And indeed, that worked. Legitimate emails were also being sent to the hate mail address. So next slide, please. In 2021, we redesigned it a little further. So we added a notice at the very top that says, if you have a legitimate reason, like you want to send us a tip or do an appeal, please scroll down. And the hate mail address became the only clickable email address on the page, because we figured that angry people that just want to rant and rave, they don't know, or they don't have the time to copy paste. They just want something easy to click on, and we added more text so that even you had to scroll down and read more stuff before you got to the actual contact information. So next slide, please. And then we added one more improvement last month, and that's that the clickable email address does not actually open your email program anymore, but it opens a separate page. Click please. That basically lists a whole list of things that people frequently send to our hate mail address, like things like "you never fact check the other side," or "you're funded by someone I don't like," and "why are you never fact checking this?" or "how do you even know what the truth is?" and those sorts of remarks. So and then we also say in the introduction, if you really want to contact us, you will find our contact information at the bottom of this page. So click please. So the angry people that still scroll down quickly and don't actually read what we write there, they will miss the actual link to the contact page, which is the 11th item or the 10th item on the page. Click please. And the ones that just scroll to the end, yes, click please. Then the last email on the page again points them to the decoy hate mail email address. So and then these emails end up in Gmail, and there we have stored a template to reply to anyone who sends an email to hatemail@leadstories.com. They get back a semi-automated message. Of course, we still read those emails, so if they accidentally send us a legitimate email, we still deal with it. But since people get a reply from something that looks like a bot, they're less likely to keep replying, because if there's one thing that you should never do, it's feed the trolls. So once you acknowledge them, they will keep sending you stuff forever and ever, and there is no way to convince them. So if they really have a serious point, then they should read that page and go to the contact page and actually find the correct address to email to when they've calmed down a bit. On Facebook Messenger, we basically do the same. We also auto reply with an automated message saying, yeah, if you want to complain, if you want to know how we work, and for anything else, click on our contact page and read it. So, and then the final slide is just some conclusions. So most of the abusive email actually gets sent to hatemail@leadstories.com these days. So it's very easy to filter in our inbox. Our reporters don't get it in their inbox anymore because nobody ever sees their actual email address. And we also reply from the hate mail alias, so they don't get mine or my colleagues' personal email address anymore when we reply. And yeah, if they have a legitimate point, it gets sent to appeals or tips. And the ones that do visit that oh no page, they might actually learn something about how fact-checking works. So so far, this has been a very successful experiment for us. Thank you.
Explanation about how you're trying to, make it more difficult in a sense for people who are trying to harass you and harass your reporters by doing some of the things that you have done. And I really enjoyed, when you said they really need to get really below to the page in order to write a comment or an email back to us. So you're making them work in a sense. Thanos,
Yeah, exactly.
Thanos, you are on a similar path of what Maarten and Lead Stories is doing. Tell us about how this new contact page and email verification and IP recording is working for you.
Yeah. Well, our main, to begin with, hello, dear friends and colleagues. Our main form of communication with our readers is through our contact form. Unfortunately, most, if not all, contact forms that we have used so far allow malevolent individuals to submit their messages by filling out the form using, let's say, a non-existent email address. One example, well, we have many examples, but I don't think I have the time to present them. But they use colorful language, they threaten us with litigation, with physical harm, and so on. So in this regard, we thought a solution might be the adoption of a newly designed contact form by a software company. We've actually reached out to a couple of them. That will require the sender to verify his email in order for his message to reach us. Furthermore, the sender will be notified that his IP address will be recorded, which will be a prerequisite, which will be necessary if he wants to complete the whole process. There is a twist, however, as far as EU countries is concerned.
Thanos, I think there's a little situation with your volume of your mic. Could you get it closer and speak? Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing was.
I think this is still not working. So maybe our team in the back end is saying if you could speak a little louder. Now you're muted. Let's move on to Barbara until we get we figure out the situation over there. Barbara's going to tell us about a bit about a small group discussion they had with their staffers around harassment. I really want to listen into this because I want to see what staffers and reporters are feeling and experiencing when they're going through these types of situations. Barbara, please.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay? staff and management. More than 300 people have participated, detailing a wide range of issues. Are you doing the cards? We can do the cards or not. I don't care. So this would be the second card. From physical threats to graphic emails to troubling phone calls and text messages, harassment increasingly is just part of our job. But beyond the disturbing stories that people told at these sessions, one of the most concerning discoveries was the vast amount of harassment that's not even reported. Many staffers said they had taken abuse for years because they didn't know what to do. Some normalized it, including a woman who said she faced a rape threat but had done nothing about it. Another female journalist said she has been sent graphic and sexualized messages for years without saying anything. One member of the fact-checking team said she never expected to feel so paranoid about her job as a journalist. She lives in fear that an angry reader will show up at the home she shares with her parents, and that she has now chosen not to read any of the messages she receives, and therefore has no idea if people are making specific threats against her. So why don't people mention this? Some people said they were too embarrassed to bring up their issues and weren't even sure if it was worthy of reporting. Many people said they didn't know where to go or what to do. Online harassment has reached a level it can no longer be ignored, as we are not. It is dangerous, damaging to employees and to businesses, even when it is just seen as perhaps an annoyance. The Pew Research Center issued a report in January that found 41% of US adults say they have been harassed online, up from 35% in 2017. The percentages of people who say that they have been threatened or sexually harassed online have both doubled since 2014. Next slide, please. While those figures are for online attacks in general, we all know that fact checkers are among those who are the most frequently targeted. One of our fact checkers was recently bombarded by a relentless stream of emails tied to a fact check from months before. It started as a trickle of emails with the subject line, "You should be ashamed of yourself." And it evolved into an onslaught, filling up her email inbox by the second. As many of us are working remotely now, she watched as they multiplied. Once she notified the desk, we got our information security department involved, and they quickly tracked them and began shutting it down. But while investigating, they found that 2 other staffers, including me, had been targeted with the emails, but never received them. And when they went further, they found that this same person had attacked other reporters at the AP as well. Getting that issue resolved took up an entire day. In another example, a fact check reporter looking into claims that the government had ordered farmers to destroy their crops began receiving a variety of texts referring to his mother and his ethnicity in disparaging ways. They made no secret about why it was happening. He received a screenshot from one of the persons targeting him, which showed that the individual that he had just reached out to on the story had asked his private group of 15,000 members to go after him. He silenced his calls while he waited for security to investigate, but the damage was done. We have now taken further steps to avoid such incidents, including giving all our fact checkers company-issued phone. But what's the impact of this harassment? A reporter feels a little bit nervous the next time they need to make a call. They don't want their byline on a story. Maybe they avoid calling someone who could develop into a problem. About those cases where you did direct message someone for comment and you find that all your questions are being tweeted online, or you get general insults about your work. We're on the right slide now. So what can we do? First, create a system for reporting harassment, whether it seems like something small or whether it is an obvious threat. The sooner these issues are reported, the easier they are to address. Set aside time for training on how to identify online harassment. Tell people what they're specifically supposed to do when they're targeted, and give them the resources that they need when it happens. Also have a plan and respond quickly. One of the things AP has learned is to put the journalist at the center of the conversation, treat it holistically, ask them what they want, ask them what they need, see how they're feeling. Do you need to be pulled off the assignment? Does human resources need to step in? Do we need to get legal involved? It's important to be proactive. Next slide, please. Think about what assignments you're giving people and be aware of the issues that could occur. Be sure that your reporters have checked their privacy settings on social media accounts. Now, I know we all have presented programs on doing that, and I'm among the people that have attended them and haven't changed my privacy settings. So be sure they do it. Have them check their online profiles. Is there personal information up, photos revealing details that could be accessed? Consider using email aliases in certain situations. And as much as I hate to say that, because I believe in transparency, in some cases, we need to consider that. Build a network of people who can provide assistance in the case you are targeted or your reporter is targeted. A person who can help read the emails and the direct messages and confront what's happening to help the person so that they don't have to do it themselves. Be aware of the wellness services that are available in your company and don't hesitate to use them. Most important, never hesitate to share. Harassment is a scary and intimidating thing, and it's hard to know when it will become an issue. When it does, it's important to draw on every resource available. And I'm happy to say that the IFCN is now has a task force on anti-harassment, and that I hope everyone who's listening to this will spread the word that we're really interesting to hear on the things about the things you're experiencing. There are on resources where people can turn to if you have that.
I'm sorry, I think we got into each other when we're speaking. Thank you, Barbara, for that insightful presentation. I really enjoyed, your thoughts on how we can, put in place little mechanisms to help our staffers and reporters. And of course, there was a few other items there, which I'm going to take back to our team and see if we could, expand on those thoughts and ideas. Inga's going to talk to us about the pandemic, how it escalated harassment, especially aimed at journalists and healthcare workers. Yet in all three Balkan countries, police don't consider even publicity shared death threats are real enough. So therefore, they don't take any action. So Inga, please tell us about this a little bit.
Yes, so hello to everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to be here and to talk about. Yes, we did actually an analytical article on how in all three Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, police acts, or honestly, it would be said to don't react on the threats which are received by to journalists and also to healthcare workers during the COVID time. And I will just very quickly go through all three countries and how police acts in each country, what is main issues. So regarding the Lithuania, as we can see in each Baltic country, of course, there is criminal law, like penal law. And depending this law, police can do something or not to do. In Lithuania, the law is more specific. It says like that this harassment should be, or like intimidation should be done at least 3 times. Only then police can start investigate some investigation, for example. They don't have specific statistics how many cases there have been regarding threats received by people. They don't separate like if the threats were received by online or offline. But there are like general numbers of criminal investigations which have not criminal investigations, but there are numbers on how many cases have been registered because of the threats. We don't know online or like in physical life, but the data shows that during pandemic time, these numbers didn't increase. Like for example, in 2019, there have been around 700 cases registered for threats, but in 2020, it's even less, only like 600. And out of these cases, like in 2019, out of these 700 cases which were registered, only 570 have been started as investigations. In 2020, it's even less, like half of all cases which are registered because of the threats. Only in 300 cases investigation were started, and we don't know actually how it resulted, whether there any result or not. In Latvia, we don't have even such kind of numbers, but now for last 3 or 4 years, there have been a new paragraph in this criminal law which allows police to act for stalking, and the law doesn't say if it should be particularly in physical life or in online world. And we have spoken with experts, and experts said that police could also apply this law for the online stalking, but so far police doesn't do it. In these last 3 years, there have been 11 cases initiated. 6 cases in criminal cases have been already ended without any kind of result. And one of those cases were also when we received real physical threats, because one of these guys showed up in our office with the funeral flowers and some kind of liquid, kind of like alcohol, and he wanted to come and to see sort of sluts what we are doing. So we went to police, but police didn't initiate the case because the guy promised that he will not do it anymore again. When police closed the case, he started again stalking, particularly me. We went again to the police because he started also to threaten other journalists because he saw that, nothing will happen if he's doing such kind of things. But recently, again, we received the announcement from police that they are closing the investigation because that was his guy's opinion. He's acting only, as provocateur because he wants to make his opinion to be out in the public. And there is no physical threats. No one is dead or beaten, so they will not do anything regarding this. Most interesting thing, a bit interesting more, is in Estonia. There also are not cases regarding this online abuse or stalking, but there is maybe police more proactive. They invite these, when they receive such kind of claims from people, they invite these abusers for questioning. And in quite many cases, it's also just enough these people calm down. But what Estonia is interesting that in 2018, there was a precedent when one actress, she received not even so much as threats, but negative comments about her in one mom's forum. And she approached one young, that time unknown lawyer, and he requested through the court IP addresses of these people who wrote the comments, and then he took them to the court for defamation. And in most of the cases, court said yes, that these people should pay financial, moral compensation to this actress. And later, this lawyer started to use this as a method he was taking, and that was also the bad side of all this case, because he started to take as his clients also very controversial people who were also kind of partly fake news spreaders as well. But in this case, it just shows that there are other ways how to approach maybe this case, not by going through criminal this way, but use it as a civil dispute and go against these people who write these comments as for a defamation. I know that we are short in time, so I will stop right here. If it's possible, maybe you can post on a public chat the link to our article. It's in English language. There are more data and statistics you can see about each Baltic country and police practices. Thank you. I don't hear you, Ferdi.
Yes, we after almost 2 years of Zoom calls and Google Meet calls, we still forget to press the unmute button. So thank you for that presentation on regards to what's happening within your region and how some laws are in effect are helping out and actually not helping out at all. But before we close out, I want Thanos to be able to give his 2 cents before we're able to take a few questions if we have any time left. Thanos, please. Thanos, can you hear me?
Hear me.
Thanos? Okay. Well, I guess Thanos is not able to connect still. Thank you for letting me know. We do have a question from the audience. I think this is directed towards Maarten. Does making it more difficult for people to contact you with a dummy email address align it with our transparency and openness corrections policies?
Well, it's not really that much more difficult to contact me. I mean, my personal email address and my phone number are literally on the page. It's only the people who don't take the time to read 2 paragraphs worth of text that find it more difficult to contact me. I mean, if you're not patient enough to actually read what you're clicking on, then you probably don't have a very valid point to make anyway. And we still read all these emails, but we have literally told these people in a very big disclaimer that we push in their face. If you send an email to this address, we will probably ignore you. So I don't really feel bad about it, because most of those emails, they contain some pretty horrible stuff. And the people who have a legitimate reason to contact us, they seem to still manage to send us their appeals and tips and everything. So those end up in the correct inboxes. So no, it hasn't been a great problem. So the people who need to be able to contact us with a legitimate reason, they still can and they still do.
So in instance, you might be making it a little difficult, but it's not impossible for them to contact you. And I was surprised to hear that you actually have your own phone number up there. That's very brave of you. I'm not sure if I would have done the same. But we do have another question coming in for the audience. It says, is it possible to think about coordinated action against online harassment that isn't regulated to how professionals or organizations can individually protect themselves? Relying on privacy setting and mental health is good, but is it a systematic issue? I think this is a question towards the whole entire panel. Jump in, whoever wants to start the conversation.
I wish I could, but I can't.
But we hear you, Thanos. We hear you now. I mean, very clearly. If you want, please go ahead.
A coordinated action. Well, a coordinated action, I'm guessing between different countries is pretty difficult. The only thing possible here, at least in the EU, could be a more strict regulation when it comes to harassment. I mean, a coordination of sorts, some new legislation perhaps that will cover all fact-checking organizations, regardless of the country they, work. Something like that, I'm guessing.
If I may, if you hear me,
Please.
I think it should be, I don't think that we actually should kind of separate out like fact checkers or like journalists or healthcare workers. I think there should be legislation and lobbying by all institutions regarding towards the police and prosecutors' offices that they should act accordingly when there are such kind of threats. Because I mentioned like what law is now providing what kind of opportunities, but the thing is that police don't apply them, because in all 3 countries, what we heard was like, it's about how it's your attitude. Be more like psychologically resilient. Don't take these threats seriously. Just smile when someone is attacking you. Like, don't be afraid. This is what I'm personally heard from police. So it shows that there is no understanding. And I think we should lobby like on systematic on state level by educating policemen and prosecutors by in all potential levels, like starting from president, government, whatever, that these threats should be taken seriously, and not only against like journalists. I think in general, online abuse should be taken seriously, and we should go and lobby about it and explain how important it is. It's serious.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. I mean, online bullying and harassment is a real thing. It's not that, there might not be physically in front of you, but once they get into that head, it's parked in there, and it affects you throughout your whole entire day. It affects how you think and approach anything that you're trying to do. So it's still a situation where people are getting hurt. And I totally agree with you that we need to do more lobbying and more speaking about this to get the word out that online harassment it's not just going to be okay, you know, if you don't mind be minding to it. I mean, it's not going to go away.
I just spoke kind of unofficially with a policeman, and I said like, but this guy is sending me like regularly text messages, cut your wrists, and he was like, but don't take it seriously. I said, but this guy showed up in our office, like physically showed up, and policeman's answer was like, but this is your problem. Why it's possible so easily to get to your office? So we should like hide ourselves behind. When we did it, of course, we took all security measures, and now it's not so easy to get to the office. But it's still kind of against democratic principles. We should be like kind of more open to people, but no, actually we are kind of hiding behind. And last thing I would want, it's kind of paradoxically, but now also policemen have started to hide their names, because in Latvia at least they had these name tags on their chest. And now recently this one super spreader of fake news, he was making some provocations and police arrested him, and they were not able anymore to identify policemen by their names, because policemen in Latvia doesn't have anymore their name tags. They have just like numbers on their chest. You can't read their name, because these fake news spreaders, they were later publishing the names of these policemen and also their phone numbers and attacking also policemen. So now policemen are also hiding their names to be protected. And I think this is absurd. Instead of like fighting this, they are also like hiding now their names.
That's really interesting. I mean, obviously, the police the mentality of the police officer said, you know, don't mind to it. It seems like they're minding to it as well. I mean, it seems like they understand it's a serious problem. Today, we're going to have a lunch table on harassment. So, panelists, you're welcome to join in the lounge area afterwards. But please, we're going to definitely take this conversation there and continue to brainstorm and continue to talk about and see what we can come up with to combat this issue within our community and hopefully maybe even make an effect on the rest of online issues and online harassment. There's still much more to come. In about 15 minutes, we will talk about how to connect across borders. And later we will have a great discussion about how to fight against disinformation. We'll be back and enjoy the rest of the sessions.